If you live in Arizona, in or around the Phoenix area, and you're considering bankruptcy, you'll love this tip from Christy Thompson of ArizonaLegalAdvocacy.com.
Is it true that taxes cannot be eliminated in bankruptcy?
That is not true. And in fact, I've had several cases where we have eliminated taxes in bankruptcy. The key is how old the taxes are and when the returns were filed and whether the taxes have been assessed. And that is really the test for income taxes. So, for example, you have taxes that you filed over 3 years ago, and they have been assessed, meaning there's a determination as to the amount owed and the penalties that were going to be incurred for what is owed, and they are income taxes, then you could put them into the bankruptcy and request that they be discharged. Now, it depends on, and why I point out income taxes versus, say, property taxes or corporate taxes, they each have their own criteria for when they can be discharged. But the biggest question I get all the time are income taxes. So age is important, and the assessment, which comes from the IRS, is the most important. And that also, on the federal taxes and the state taxes, they both could be eliminated in bankruptcy. And if you weren't able to eliminate them, you may want to consider a Chapter 13, which would allow you to discharge your unsecured debt, so say, for example, your credit card debt, and only pay your taxes. And that can really help people who their taxes haven't been assessed by the IRS, or they're not old enough, or a combination of both, and they also have a lot of credit card debt. They'll receive the protection of the bankruptcy court, which means the IRS couldn't garnish them. Then they'd pay their taxes through the bankruptcy plan, and after 5 years or 3 years, depending on how much is owed, they'd be done with it, and there wouldn't be any other debt they'd owe. So there's usually a very good solution. And to say they can't be eliminated, that's simply not true.
Is it true that I must be broke to file bankruptcy?
You know, that's such a good question, Cindy. Everyone's definition of broke is something different. But you don't have to be flat out broke without a job. You should be at your lowest financial point, which I've had clients who were making, $250,000 a year, and now they're making $100,000 a year. I can tell you they think they're broke. Absolutely. I've also had clients who've gone from making $80,000 a year to making $30,000 a year. They also think they're broke. So depending on what your definition of broke is, you don't have to be flat out without a job, but you should be at your lowest financial point. And so if you feel that you've met that, or the other issue is, say, for example, a single person, I'm making $45,000 a year, which is going to qualify me for a Chapter 7 automatically, and I have about, say, $25,000 in debt. That's almost half of my income. Now, my income is pretty healthy at $45,000 for a single person, but I simply can't get over that hump of $25,000 of credit card debt. Is it a good idea that I file even though I have an income and it's ongoing? Yes, I think it is. So I don't think you need to be unemployed or homeless or not own any property by no stretch of the imagination. And what's really sad is when people let themselves get to that point because they think that that's where they need to be before they file bankruptcy. Or sadly, they liquidate all of their retirement because they believe that they can't have a retirement protected in bankruptcy. Or they allow their house to go into foreclosure rather than attempt to protect it in bankruptcy. So really, bankruptcy is about protecting your assets, getting rid of your debt, and getting a fresh start. But it's not about being without anything or not having a job. You don't even have to hit that low point. That's not where bankruptcy wants you to be. So no, you don't have to be broke to file bankruptcy.
Thanks, Christy. We appreciate you answering our questions. If you have specific questions for Christy or would like to find out more about filing for bankruptcy in or around Phoenix, Arizona, visit Christy's website at ArizonaLegalAdvocacy.com.